Happy Saturday, Risers. We hope you all are having a great weekend. Sagar and I are back with some of our favorite moments from the week. Unemployment numbers indicate that many Americans are still being pushed out of work nearly 3 months into the pandemic. We heard from Chapman University's Urban Futures Fellow and author of The Coming of Neo-Feudalism, Joel Kotkin, who revealed his perspective on which communities are suffering the most.
What you're really seeing, and I think it's really tragic, is that these small businesses that were deemed not essential are, many of them are never going to reopen. Obviously, where the looters have trashed things have made it even worse. So I think the inner city is in for a really rough turn. And I think that although obviously there were horrendous examples of police brutality, the economic impact of, let's say, defunding police, reducing police protection, that has never worked very well for the inner city. So I think those areas are going to be very hard hit.
Obviously, I disagree with Joel on that last point. When we see Camden, New Jersey, we see the defund movement being about increasing safety in their communities. But the point about small businesses and the collapse and the economic fallout from that is just absolutely undeniable.
Can't deny that one. Although in Camden, they did hire more police officers. So there is that always that one. But look, I think that why I very much appreciate Joel's perspective is that I don't think he really pulls any punches whenever it comes from tech to policing, anyone you can see. I mean, he obviously has a very heterodox view. And that is very important to view this, which is that I think he's right. I think the inner city is going to be destroyed by much of what we see here. And we're going to see the mobile capital class is going to be able to move wherever they want. They're going to be able to do and pick up, their consumer spending. But that isn't going to be there for many of the urban poor and many of the others who serve those demands.
I think suburbs are going to be really hard hit, too. Yeah, I mean, with the retail apocalypse and the businesses that are going out, because it's not just small businesses. It's a lot of, medium and even some national brands that were struggling before that are going under. We already had, a retail apocalypse that was emptying out big box stores and malls, et cetera. So it's going to be a lot of communities that are reshaped and not in a good way from this.
I think that's right. All right, House Democrats and Senate Republicans, they've each drafted their own police reform proposals that both dismiss the defund the police movement, but progressives like AOC and urging older members to reimagine what that phrase actually means. So we spoke to the former national co-chair to the Sanders campaign, Nina Turner, who called the movement an opportunity to bring generations together.
It is clear that this is a generational divide. And the point is certainly well taken that the Congresswoman made. It's the same thing on the federal level when it comes to the military budget. They get 61%, as we have talked about before, of the discretionary budget. When you take that same model and distill it down to local levels, we find that the police budgets are bloated. And bloated for what? How better can we use that money to deal with some of the social ills to help to try to ameliorate or eradicate the systems in place that really start with the over-reliance on policing in a volatile, kind of violent type of way. The model is not that of protect and serve. It is go in there, knock some heads, clean things up, because these people, fill in the blank, are bad. And so, yes, it is a generational divide, and we need to work it out. We have to work it out. One generation cannot do this alone. We need each other to get this done, even if we disagree. So let's come on and get some understanding, and let's get some change happening, real change.
And I haven't seen much polling yet on exactly how the breakdown is generationally, but you can kind of guess what that divide is going to look like. And it's really interesting with this question of defund the police because the support for it depends radically on how you ask the question. So if you just say defund the police, support very low. If you say cut the budget and reallocate to X, Y, and Z social services, you have very high support, which on the one hand, I think you could argue either way. You could say, well, why are you using this word if it's so unpopular when this is really what you mean? On the other hand, it proves that the underlying idea is actually not that radical. It is actually something that a lot of people support, which is rather than having these massive militarized police forces, let's invest in the other things that could help keep our community safe.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me, though, of the Obamacare. People are like, well, Obamacare is popular if you don't take Obama's name out of it and you just pull the individual parts of Obamacare. So, I mean, look, if you want to brand your movement, defund the police, you're going to have to live with the political consequences. I have a poll right in front of me, 65% opposed, 35% support. I was actually looking as you were talking for the younger breakdowns. I don't have the age breakdowns immediately in front of me. I would be very curious and actually to see it. But look, if you want, structural reform,
one of the things that we're seeing in polling is a huge racial divide on the issue, where African Americans are majority in favor, white people it's only like 20-something%. So,
but I want to see the upper middle class white numbers on that, and I bet you it's probably even past the Black Americans.
I don't know about that.
Doesn't surprise me.
Eliot Engel's top primary opponent, Jamaal Bowman, has gained massive support in recent weeks, receiving endorsements from AOC and from Bernie Sanders. Friend of the show and D.C. bureau chief of The Intercept, Ryan Grim, he's been following that race really closely before really anyone, as he does, and explained why Engel's scrambling to fend off his most serious primary challenge in years.
I certainly think that Jamaal Bowman has a shot. They're both backed by Justice Democrats. AOC was backed by Justice Democrats, and they're behind Jamaal Bowman. And as you said, AOC has now endorsed Bowman and is getting a ton of flack from her colleagues. And Engel had the kind of remarkable chutzpah to say that this is a democracy, not a dictatorship. Pushing aside the value of AOC's endorsement, or the kind of whether or not she should even be able to endorse, which shows a remarkable lack of self-awareness, given that the Democratic Party insists that there be no primaries. That's their rule, that there ought not to be primaries. You can't, on the one hand, say this is a democracy, and on the other hand say, yeah, but we can't have contested elections.
I think Ryan's exactly right. I'm really excited actually to talk to Jamaal next week.
We have him on the show.
We're going to have him on the show to discuss. The whole dynamic of these primaries is really fascinating, because it's something where it's a movement in order to force these hard D districts to actually act like the progressive activists want them to. It's going to be a real battleground test of turnout, coronavirus. I mean, it's not 2018 when AOC won, where people could actually vote without fear. So I'm very curious to see how all this thing
There was a little, to me, sort of crazy minor development in this race recently, which is apparently Engel is sending out text to supporters saying about the primary that communists are trying to take over the Democratic Party. Okay. So, which is obviously like there's an ugly, racist, red baiting history that is, problematic when Jamaal Bowman, your opponent, is African American. It's also like, who are you, right? Are you like Fox
Eliot,
News right now? Are you like
to the RNC,
Breitbart right now? What are you doing? But that's the piece that Ryan was reacting to there was also incredibly tone deaf, where he was talking about AOC as if she's a dictator. It's very weird. But the reason that this race has a lot of some of the similar contours to AOC's race against Joe Crowley was that the major issue with Crowley wasn't a policy issue as much as it was the fact that he was out of touch with his district, right? It was a district that was much more diverse, and here he is, this white guy who's hanging out in Washington, he's not coming back to the district, not responsive to the needs of the district.
Didn't go to the debate or whatever.
Exactly, and AOC wasn't able to come in and say, I am of you, I'm from you, I get you, and I'm going to champion your values in a way that is very similar with Jamaal Bowman and Eliot Engel. Engel got caught by a reporter here who, was like, where have you been during coronavirus? And they first tried to spin him on, he's been here in the district and in D.C. Well, later comes out he was lying about that. He didn't go to any. He'd been only here in D.C., hadn't been to any events in the district, hadn't been doing anything there. So he's had a couple of moments that have really, really undermined his case. We'll see if it's enough. Like you said, it's a wild political time.
See what happens.
That does it for us. We'll be back later today with the week that was in media screw-ups.
That's right. Make sure you guys like, hit, share, and subscribe so you guys don't miss any videos. And don't forget to like as well. So we will be back tomorrow for another round of #RisingHues. We'll see you guys then.
Have a great day, everybody.